All right, let's welcome in our good friend Scott Reynolds from the Pewter Report. And as we do this, thank you all of our great sponsors: Riveters, Italiano, the Golden Diamond Source, On-Site Construction, Third Generation Plumbing, Cafe Paradiso, the Jeeves Law Group, and Don'tGoUncovered.com. Thank you very much, Scotty, for joining us. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, we're talking some Rays baseball, which I will not involve you in.
Thank you. I will bring nothing to the conversation.
I wanted to piggyback on our conversation yesterday as I was joined you for the Pewter Report podcast.
Yes.
Really fun. So go check out that podcast. We'll get into some other things, but I did want to kind of revisit what Josh Capo, one of your wonderful writers and gifted writers, did in going through and from an analytic standpoint, predicting what the offensive numbers for this team will be. And I believe you did the defensive numbers as well, which you're going to do on today's podcast.
Yeah.
So from an offensive number standpoint, Baker Mayfield, he predicted Baker Mayfield's numbers will come down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but give me your thoughts on that.
Well, I think Josh factored in a couple things, three things really. Number one, nobody wants to see it, but between Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield over 5 years, there has not been a missed start for a Buccaneer quarterback, right? So at some point in time, whether it's a hamstring pull, shoulder injury, whatever, and let's
hanging a finger on a helmet, something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're going to knock on wood right now. We're not speaking this into existence, but at some point in time, Baker Mayfield might miss a game or two, right? And hopefully, if he gets injured, it's something very short term. So I think he's factoring in that. I think he's also factoring in the fact that the Buccaneers, with their offense and an improved defense, should be ahead in more games in 2025, and therefore not having to throw the ball to catch up, to tie the game, or to go ahead. And so that could, see Baker Mayfield's touchdowns, his passing yards come down a little bit. The other factor is the Buccaneers really found this guy, Bucky Irving, who I think is a star in the league already. They've got one of the most enviable running back rooms in the league with Rashad White and Sean Tucker. So in those games that they might be ahead, they're going to run the ball more because they've got the backs to do it. And they're just going to feed the beast. Ask any of the offensive linemen, they would much rather run block than pass protect. And so Tampa Bay's offensive line is a strength. They lean on that. So I think that's the premise for his numbers coming down a bit. What I will argue is this is still a field goal league, meaning that a lot of games come down at 3 points or less in the NFL. And that's the way the league wants it. And that's what the parity across the league kind of dictates. And you look at how many blowouts were there where the Buccaneers won. I can think of 3. Well, 4, really. Week 1, the Bucs finally pulled away from the Commanders, right? Week 5 in New Orleans, where they were actually down at halftime to the Spencer Rattler Saints, but they blew them out, dropped a 50-burger on them in the second half. We saw that happen in the second halves of the Giants game on the road and the Chargers game on the road too, then the Panthers game at home. So really, 5 games out of 17, those were the blowouts. The rest, were decided by a touchdown, maybe 10 points or something like that, whether the Bucs won or lost. So, but what I said on the show yesterday with you was, okay, well, let's factor in too, Baker Mayfield had 41 touchdowns last year, which was the second most in franchise history, 2 away from tying Tom Brady's mark of 43, which happened in 2021. But he didn't have Chris Godwin to throw the ball to for 10 games last year, right? He was throwing instead of Godwin to Raheem Jarrett, to Ryan Miller, to Sterling Shepard, guys like that, And then he didn't have Mike Evans for practically 4 games. So if you give Baker Mike Evans for an entire season, Chris Godwin for most or all of the season, as 2 proven elite receivers, I think the numbers can actually go up in terms of passing yards, in terms of touchdowns. And the last thing I'll say about the passing yards is this is supposed to be a little bit more of a vertical offense this year. Still going to be bread and butter, short, intermediate passes, around 70% completion. Let the receivers get the yak yards, the yards after catch. This is that Rams-based offense. But instead of relying on a 7-yard catch to turn into a 17-yarder to move the sticks, what Josh Grizzard wants to do is have a more vertical element, a few more intermediate passes, and then a couple more deep shots to keep the defenses honest, to keep them from sitting on those shorter intermediate routes and having to maybe play more cover 2 or drop back a little bit, give a little bit more cushion. And then if Baker Mayfield can hit some of those plays, then maybe you don't have a 7-yard catch that turns into a 17-yarder. Maybe you have a 17-yard catch that turns into a 70-yarder. So I can see kind of both sides of Josh's argument, but I don't want to rule out the fact that Baker Mayfield's numbers can't go up and in terms of yards and touchdowns, because I think they can if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are still in their prime and healthy and play most or all of the season.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. And I think when you look at, and we talked about this yesterday, in the Vegas odds, when you look at some of the props, some of the major players, they have them out already. Yeah. For Baker, yards passing for the season, 3,800. Yeah. They have over under. I think that's an easy overplay. Yeah,
I'm taking the over on that.
Yeah, and for touchdowns,
here's why they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. They drafted another one in the 7th round. Okay, Josh Grizzard, as much as he loves to run the ball, and they've got 3 running backs, and the offensive line is really good. He was the pass game coordinator last year, right? And he was a wide receivers coach in Miami before that. So that's the side of the ball, that the passing game of the offensive side of the ball that he is really familiar with. And I think the fact that he wants to get more vertical in the passing game tells you everything you need to know. Baker Mayfield is a lock for over 4,000 yards if he stays healthy.
Yeah, stays healthy, yeah. He could even miss a couple games and get there. No question about it. Touchdown numbers, 29.5. Now, I've made money on Baker over yards, over touchdowns the first 2 years he's been with the Bucs. I think last year they had him at 22.5.
Yeah.
I think he beat that by week 11. Yeah, that was an easy over. This year they got it at 29.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go over that too. With 41 last year.
I would.
Yeah. I still think they haven't caught up enough.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more about health.
Out of curiosity,
Bucky Irving. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you have what their over/under is on his interceptions this year?
They did not post those.
Did not post that.
Not post those yet.
I might look that up. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. Well, he had 16 last year?
Led the league with 16 last year, yeah.
I think they'll probably set the number at 13 or 12.
I'll probably take the over. Not that that's a bad thing necessarily.
I'm going to break some news here on your show, JP. That's okay with you. The Buccaneers have just announced that they are going to be introducing some new throwback jerseys on July 15th. And they just teased this online. And it looks to be the original throwback white Buccaneer jerseys with the Steve Spurrier, the orange numbers with the red outline rather than the red numbers with the orange outline. Yeah.
And the white pants.
Love those.
We going white pants?
And the white pants. And, this is not official. This is me interpreting as a Buccaneer expert what their drop is. But this will be the first of 2 throwback games in Tampa Bay this year. They will be wearing the all white, the Bucco Bruce helmet for week 3 against the Jets. That will be when they're celebrating their 50th season. Then they will have the creamsicle jerseys with the Bucco Bruce helmet and the white pants on Thursday, prime against the Falcons in week 15. So 2 throwback games. Not much of a surprise. Kind of expected that. So yeah.
I heard some folks say they might wear them at Seattle too, as a nod to the 2 teams. That
they're also celebrating.
They should, right?
Yeah. That would be fun. Interesting. Okay, thank you for that breaking news.
Yes,
that's cool.
Absolutely.
So also in terms of some prop bets, Bucky Irving 1,025 rushing over or under. It's under last year's total.
Yeah,
so I would. I'm going over on that.
I think there's a chance that Bucky goes over just because he is going to be the more featured back. At the same time, he's not the biggest back, right? We did see him kind of miss a game. He got hurt against the Panthers on that kickoff return right before halftime. He kind of injured his hip. He tried to go next week against the Raiders, 4 carries, 3 yards, and then he was done for the day. Rashad actually had a great game against the Raiders. So I think that's what Josh is factoring in. I could see if this kid stays healthy, 1,200, 1,300, maybe 1,400 yards. He's got the ability to rip off plays. And that is so key for running backs. For running backs to get yards, you have to do 2 things. You have to not just get the 8-yard run, but the 18-yard run, right? This is not college where you're ripping off 80-yard runs, right? He does have the ability to take some beyond 30, for sure. We saw that last year. But it's the chunk runs that matter. It's getting past the 10-yard mark. It's ripping off those explosive runs. And he's got the ability to do that. He showed that in week 1, ripped off a 30-plus yarder against the Commanders, right? And that's where the whole Bucky chant started at Raymond James Stadium, which was really cool to see. Rashad White's probably going, what the hell? Come on, man. This kid's in his first game. He's getting a chant. I've been here for a couple of years. I ain't got a chant, you know?
Well, he's chanting Rashad.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second thing is when you look at the fact that the Buccaneers figure to be better offensively and defensively, or we'll say as good offensively and improved defensively.
Right.
And if that's the case, you're going to have more leads in the fourth quarter. And I think you and I, and I say you and I meaning Tim and JP, we'd love to see Sean Tucker in some of those games and rest Bucky for the next week when the outcome's already in hand. But I think it's going to be a matter of how much the team wants Bucky. If he's sitting at 87 yards and they've got a 14-point lead with 6 minutes left, do you keep him in there and have him get 110 or 120 yards, or do you just say, okay, you're done, and we're gonna give Rashad and Sean some carries because we've got 3 backs that we got to feed, and this is kind of the opportune time. Bucky's not going to care. I think that's the best thing. Yeah. But I think the team and I think the fans would love to see those 100-yard games stack up, because then when you do that enough times, you get to the Pro Bowl. And then that helps your case long term. And again, Bucky's not an ego-driven guy. He's not a me guy. He'll take 24 yards on 7 carries as long as the team wins. That's just him. But I think that he's capable of becoming a Pro Bowl back if this team feeds him. But you gotta balance that with his health, right? So that's the thing.
Well, and the thing too, if you're at 87 yards with six minutes left with a 14-point lead, that could just be one run for Bucky Irving.
That's right.
You just may need to give him the ball one time.
One more time, and he's 107 yards exactly with a 20-yarder. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, what other? I was going to ask you about this. Greg Allman wrote a piece on 4th down conversions in the NFL. And I think they've almost doubled in the last 10 years in terms of guys, coaches going for it.
Yeah.
And last year had a record, NFL record, 64% conversion rate.
Yeah.
And it's something that obviously has been a huge trend in the NFL. And last year, the Buccaneers were 26th in fourth down conversions. Yeah. Todd Bowles not as likely to go for it, although I thought he's been much more aggressive in the last couple of years than he's been, but still on the lower end of it.
Well, here's the thing there is that's a little bit of a skewed statistic, because where do those 4th downs occur? Is it 4th down on your 45-yard line, right? And it's 4th and 2 and you're close to midfield? Are you punting? You're just saying, screw it. We're just about home. We're just about at midfield here. We're going to go for it. Are you at the 45-yard line of your opponent where you're like, yeah, let's just do it? Like, what's a punt going to do? Or are you in field goal range for a 52-yard bomb from Money McLaughlin,
right?
Where he opts to take the points because he's got the kicker that can deliver that, rather than going for it on 4th and 3 at the, call it 37 or 38-yard line, right? So I think having a really, really good kicker from long distance kind of skews those numbers a little bit, because Todd Bowles has a legitimate option. It's not punt or go for it, right? It's punt, go for it, or I can get 3 points right here. And
you got about an 80% chance of getting 3. Well, with Chase, it's been more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's that's kind of the X factor into this equation. Now, I do see Bowles and Grizzard going for it more on 4th down and being more aggressive, because you have to kind of keep up with the league. And my God, the Commanders shoved that right down the Buccaneers' throat in that playoff game. They said, we're not punting. Not only are you not going to force us to punt, damn it, we're not going to punt. So like we're giving the punter the night off. We're here to win this game or lose it. On offense and defense, we're not going to win this with special teams. I mean, shoot, even their game-winning field goal doinked in, So it was really an offense and defensive game, that Commanders game. And I think sometimes that last game of the year leaves a taste in your mouth, not just as a player, not just as Kalijah Cansey missing Jaden Daniels multiple times, or Yaya Diaby, getting beat by Austin Eckler on a pass catch on third down, or Jalen McMillan dropping an end around, or Graham Barton, snapping the ball too soon. Those help the players kind of like fuel them for the next year to atone for those mistakes. But I think also too, it can work for coaches. It's that last game that you have, the last time you put on, the headset, and I think that can help shape Josh Grizzard and Todd Bowles' mentality on fourth down going into 2025.
And I wonder if some of these spring leagues have influenced that at all, because, the XFL was kind of famous for coaches going forward on fourth down. And it might have opened the eyes of some of the NFL organizations. Hey, these guys are somewhat more successful than we thought they would be, doing that. So maybe we can give it a shot. And then I know in college, especially in the Big 12, Joey McGuire was a big thing of he just always went for it on fourth down. Yeah. He never, and his success rate wasn't great, but it kind of showed that, in certain situations, it might be a better decision. Yeah. And I just wonder if that has influenced, because I love it. I would much rather see you go for it on fourth down than punt the stupid ball. Yeah. Like, I know I've seen these, outlandish rules change proposals where if you're on the plus side of the 50, you have to either go for it or kick a field goal. You're not allowed to punt. Like, to me, that will never happen, but that would be kind of cool, right? Just take it out of the game if you're on the plus side of the 50.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, though, it's like you go back to that Falcons game, the throwback game last year. The Buccaneers, I believe, punted and pinned the Falcons back deep. They actually got a safety in that game, right? Yeah. So, like, you can have those instances. I remember there was I believe it was a punt when the Bucs played the Bears and had them really backed up, like inside the 2-yard line. And Shaq Barrett actually had a pick six on a screen pass, right? So sometimes, trust me, the playbook shrinks like this when you're inside your own 10-yard line. So from a strategic standpoint, especially with the defensive-minded head coach, you have to always kind of, Bowles needs to really kind of have Zach Beastline in his ear saying, go for it, Todd.
Right.
Go for it. Or kick the field goal. Or, or punt, because Todd has sometimes an unhealthy trust in his own defense, right? Sometimes
that's the thing.
Sometimes that's the thing. But when you're a defensive-minded head coach and you're the play caller, your default fallback is the defense is going to bail me out. We're going to punt the ball. We're going to pin them deep. We're either going to get a turnover or they're going to punt the ball back to us. We're going to get the ball on their 45-yard line for another shot.
Well, and this is what I have had such a philosophically difficult time with, the way they managed that Redskins game and the way Bowles managed a lot of games last year. You had the 29th worst pass defense, and you had the 4th best offense. You had the best third down conversion offense.
Right.
I would say third down conversions are very similar to fourth down conversions. They're in the same family. They're brothers.
Yes.
And if you're that good at converting, you have so many good skill players in those situations, and you have a terrible defense.
Yeah.
You got to go for it all the time. You should be going for it most every time. First of all, for me, it would be 4th and 5 or less, 50-yard and in, you're going for. I would even start at the 45. I'm not freaking punting the ball and giving that to my defense. No way. No way.
I think you go back to that Washington game, and there were two things. You're right about the pass defense, right? Number one, you got to read the room. Your defense has not stopped them at all. Hadn't created a turnover outside of a ton of rundowns. Didn't punt, right? So you got to read the room. They had a 19-play drive. This isn't our night, right? We're not on top of our game here, right? So why is the next drive going to be the drive where it's going to magically come together? That's wishful thinking. Hope is not a strategy, right? The second thing was you didn't have Jamel Dean, who was, when he's healthy, Jamel Dean's actually a good cover corner, folks. I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
he's not bad. He's not going to pick off passes, but he's also not going to give up big plays either on the regular, like we saw what happened with Josh Hayes. And I remember turning to Bailey Adams and Adam Slavon in the press box on 3rd and 6 when the Commanders were still on their side of the field. And I saw De'Ami Brown lined up against Josh Hayes, and I said, they're going right at Josh Hayes. It's going to be 1st down. 26 yards later, boom, there it was. They crossed midfield, and it was over. And that's the other thing, too, is you have to realize that with under 2 minutes left, and the Commanders are going to have to throw the ball, right? They've got to move the ball quickly down and try to get a field goal before time expires. So they're going to be passing the ball against your pass defense, which was ranked towards the bottom of the league, not having a good night, and lost one of its starting cornerbacks, right? So, that's where Zach Beastline has to have all of those cards on the table and kind of like reading them like tarot cards, like for Todd Bowles saying, Todd, don't do this, just putting some data in his head and having him say, listen, that was a fluke play down there by Graham Barton. Okay. But I don't think it's going to be a fluke play 2 plays in a row, right? I mean, I know we're backed up a little bit, but let's trust our offense that maybe hasn't really turned it on tonight. But damn it, we're down there. We're like in friggin' field goal range. But let's get the touchdown and make them get the touchdown to beat us rather than the field goal. Because guess what? The field goal beat them.
That's right.
With doinked in.
All right, Scotty, thank you for your time as always. What do we got coming up today on Pewter Report?
Bucs stat projections for the defensive players. Yay. That's the fun side of the ball, folks, especially this year. It's going to be better. Trust me. Tomorrow, actually tonight, we're having our Pewter Report all-time Bucs draft where myself, Josh Capo, Bailey Adams, Matt Matera, and Adam Slavon will be drafting our teams, and we're going to be presenting them on tomorrow's podcast. Plus, we've also come up with the best Bucs team of all time, taking Buccaneer players from all 50 seasons. And it's basically like the Bucs all-pro team. There's one quarterback, there's one tight end, there's 2 receivers, there's a pair of defensive tackles. Who are the best Buccaneers of all time? So it's that list, plus it's all of our fantasy football picks.
Nice.
From the Buccaneer all-time roster. So it should be a really fun show on Wednesday. So we're looking forward to that too.
There you go.
All right, partner. Appreciate you. Thanks, Scotty.
Yep.
Great Scott Reynolds there. All right.